Rihan had always lived a quiet, predictable life. He worked in a small cafe tucked between tall buildings in the middle of the city. Every morning he would brew coffee, serve customers, clean tables, and watch the world moving fast around him. People came in laughing, fighting, rushing, or tired, but none of it touched Rihan. His life felt like a still photograph in a moving city. He had no dreams, no colors, no excitement. Until the night she walked in. Maywish entered the cafe during a soft, cool drizzle. Her hair was slightly wet, her clothes elegant, and her presence carried an aura that filled the whole space. Rihan was wiping the counter when he looked up, and for the first time, his heartbeat stumbled. She was beautiful, but not in the usual way. She looked exhausted, lonely, and lost, yet incredibly graceful. She sat near the window, and Rihan found himself staring longer than he should. He walked to her table with a soft voice. "Ma'am, you seem cold. Would you like something warm?" She looked up. Her eyes were deep and tired, but gentle. "Yes, coffee, please." That was the beginning. As the rain tapped lightly against the glass, Maywish wrapped her hands around the warm cup. Rihan noticed how delicate her fingers were, how she exhaled softly with every sip. There was silence between them, yet something unspoken traveled across the small distance, an invisible pull neither of them understood. From that night onward, Maywish began visiting the cafe regularly. Sometimes she looked like she had the whole world on her shoulders. Sometimes she looked like she was running from something. And sometimes, she just looked at peace. Especially when Rihan was around. Rihan, who barely spoke to anyone, found himself waiting for her. He would look at the door every few minutes, hoping she would walk through it. And when she did, the entire cafe felt different. Her presence warmed the cold walls, softened the sound of clinking cups, and made Rihan feel alive in a way he had never experienced. Their conversations grew slowly, like petals opening to sunlight. She asked about his life, his routine, his thoughts. He listened when she talked about her career, her struggles, and her loneliness despite being surrounded by people. Maywish was a successful fashion designer, admired by many, but she felt unseen by everyone, except Rihan. One evening, she stayed until closing time. The city lights shimmered outside as Rihan locked the door. She watched him with a soft expression. "You're different from everyone I meet," she said quietly. "You make me feel safe." Rihan felt heat rise in his chest. "I'm just doing my job." "No," she said, taking a slow step toward him. "It's more than that. I don't know how to explain it." Their eyes held onto each other longer than usual. Something warm, thick, and magical filled the air. It felt like the world had stopped moving. Days turned into weeks, and their connection deepened. Maywish would often stay after hours just to talk. Rihan would sit across from her, listening to her voice, watching her smile in a way she didn't smile for anyone else. When he made her laugh, it felt like a personal victory. When she sighed, he wanted to ease whatever burden she carried. One late evening, she invited him to her studio, a place filled with warm lights, unfinished dresses, soft fabrics, and the scent of jasmine candles. It was her sanctuary, and bringing him there meant something. "You're the only person I've shown this place to," she told him gently. Rihan felt honored, touched, and nervous. He sat on the couch while she showed him sketches of her upcoming collection. Her fingers brushed his when she handed him a paper. The soft touch sent a quiet electricity up his arm. She didn't pull her hand away. Immediately, neither did he. Their breaths grew slower. The air thickened again. "Rihan," she whispered. He looked up. Her face was close, her eyes soft, her lips slightly parted. He could feel her heartbeat in the quiet room. "Why do I feel like I've known you forever?" she asked. Rihan didn't know how to answer. All he knew was that he wanted to protect her, comfort her, and be near her. He raised a hesitant hand and tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. His fingers lingered for a moment longer than they should have. Maywish closed her eyes for a second, breathing in the moment. When she looked at him again, her expression was full of warmth and longing, something deeper than words. They didn't speak for a long time. They just sat close, sharing the silence, the emotion, the quiet intensity building between them. It was not rushed. It was not loud. It was the kind of closeness that grows naturally between two souls meant to meet. After that night, their bond became unshakable. They went on late-night drives, talking about dreams they never shared with anyone. They walked along quiet streets, their hands brushing again and again until one day she finally held his hand properly, locking her fingers with his. Rihan felt something bloom inside him, something soft and overwhelming. Sometimes they stayed on her studio's balcony, watching the city lights while she rested her head on his shoulder. Rihan was shy at first, but every time she leaned into him, he felt complete. One night, while they were standing close, watching the city from her balcony, she placed her hand on his chest. She could feel his heartbeat, fast, nervous, sincere. "Rihan," she said softly, "don't ever leave me." He covered her hand with his and whispered, "I won't. Not as long as you want me here." A gentle smile spread across her lips. She moved closer, her forehead touching his. Their breaths mingled. The night wrapped around them like a warm blanket. There was no rush, no pressure, just two hearts learning how to beat together. Over time, their relationship became deeper, warmer, and more intimate. Their conversations grew softer. Their silences grew meaningful. When Rihan looked at her, he didn't just see a successful designer. He saw a woman with a fragile heart, strong dreams, and a desperate need to be truly loved. When Maywish looked at him, she didn't see a cafe worker, she saw the man who made her feel alive again. One evening, as they sat on the studio floor surrounded by fabric rolls, music playing softly in the background, Maywish rested her head on his lap. Rihan gently ran his fingers through her hair, feeling her relax under his touch. "You make my world quiet," she murmured. "With you, everything becomes simple." Rihan leaned down slightly. "You make my world brighter." Her eyes softened. She sat up slowly and cupped his face with both hands. Their foreheads touched again, and the warmth between them grew. She breathed against his lips, not kissing, just feeling. Rihan's hands trembled slightly as he held her waist. They stayed there for a long moment, savoring the closeness, the quiet longing, the deep connection neither of them had ever felt before. It wasn't just romance, it was healing. It wasn't just attraction, it was soul-deep comfort. It wasn't just two people, it was two incomplete lives finding their missing pieces. One night, when the sky was dark and the city lights glowed softly, Maywish finally confessed what she had been holding inside. "Rihan, I think I'm in love with you." Rihan stared at her, breath caught. The words hit him like a warm wave. He touched her cheek gently, his voice trembling, "I've loved you for a long time." Maywish smiled with tears shining in her eyes. She leaned into him, closing the distance. They held each other tightly, the kind of embrace that felt like home after a lifetime of wandering. From that night onward, they belonged to each other, not with loud promises, but through quiet presence, warmth, and heartfelt connection. Their romance grew, filling all the empty spaces inside them. Rihan found color in his life. Maywish found peace she never imagined possible. They weren't perfect, but together, they were complete. And sometimes, all a heart needs, is another heart that understands its silence.